Hello very much and welcome to the pilot and probably finale of The Killer Mind, Psychology of a Criminal Mind, sponsored by Finals. I'm your host, Taz.
And hello, I'm Bridget.
Now, Brie, when you think of a serial killer, what type of person do you think of?
I would think of a man who works alone, targets young sex workers, and who probably is very careful of not getting caught.
Okay, so that's
Smart.
not a 33-year-old lesbian prostitute targeting her clients with reckless abandon to support her girlfriend.
So that's different. Isn't that Eileen Wuornos, the serial killer who shot and killed 7 men over the course of just 12 months from 1989 to 1990?
Yes, it is. Let's take a look at her case. But before we get into her crimes, we should look at her early life and why she is the way that she is.
Like most serial killers, she had a really rocky upbringing. Her family dynamics, her mother left when she was really young. Her mom was 16 when she was born, so her grandparents became her caregivers because her father was in prison. Her grandparents were unfortunately alcoholics, and they were very abusive. Her grandfather sexually assaulted her and abused her, and she was thrown out of the house at 15.
Yeah, and that left her with a lot of trauma, causing borderline personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder. And what were the early signs of trauma?
The childhood sexual abuse. She was very neglected, and when she was 11, she began engaging in sexual activity because that was the only thing that she knew how to do to get stuff in exchange for cigarettes, drugs, and food. She also ended up engaging in sexual activity with her own brother. And in 1970, at age 14, she became pregnant after being raped by a friend of her grandfather. So about her, and what makes her a little bit different from a lot of serial killers here, is that she doesn't hit the McDonald triad, which is bedwetting, animal abuse. She was completely different. The only thing that really brought this up to her being this violent was the sexual abuse that she had to take.
For after her childhood, at 32,
Big skip, 15 to 32.
she met Tyria Moore at a gay bar called the Zodiac.
Like the famous serial killer.
Yeah.
Are they connected? Who knows?
Crazy foreshadowing. But her and Tyria quickly became inseparable, and they moved in together as partners. But Tyria allegedly wanted a more luxurious life than Eileen could really provide with her prostitute income. So she quickly turned to a darker option.
As anyone does. Violence. And who were her victims?
Well, they were her clients, first off, and she
Yikes.
killed, in order, Richard Mallory, 51, claimed to have killed him in self-defense. David Spears, 47, he was declared missing on May 19, 1990, and his body was found naked on June 1st. Charles Carskadon, 40, killed May 31st. Body found naked on June 6th, and Eileen was seen in possession of his car, and she had pawned off his old gun. Peter Seams, 65, car found on July 4th, body never found, but her handprint was on the interior of the door handle. Troy Burress, 50, reported missing July 31st, body found August 4th. Charles Humphreys, 56, he was killed September 11th, and his body was found the next day. And Walter Antonio, 61, body found November 19th, nearly naked. She killed all of these men in the span of just 12 months from 1989 to early 1990.
And another fun fact, all of them died by gunshots, gun wounds.
Yeah,
except for one, because they never found the body. There was only one who they didn't find.
Yeah, but it's pretty safe to say he probably got shot too. And
Considering the other evidence.
considering the track record here.
Yeah.
But she got caught after she killed Peter Seams. She abandoned his car on July 4th of 1990, and a witness provided a description of 2 women, which were Tyria and Eileen, who were driving the car, and police had found
she had her girlfriend in on it.
She had, not necessarily, at least not in the beginning. We'll get to that later once we get to witness testimony.
Okay.
But the police found victims' belongings in pawn shops, and they found her fingerprints on the receipts.
She wasn't that slick. So she was arrested less than 6 months later on January 9th, 1991 for an outstanding warrant for carrying a concealed weapon. Now we wonder how they all got killed.
But they arrested her mostly because they'd already had enough reason to believe that she was a suspect. Police then located Tyria, and she agreed to elicit a confession from Eileen in exchange for immunity from prosecution.
Wow, she went against her own girlfriend? Did she know about the murders when they were happening?
She denies that she knew about them, but she grew suspicious of Eileen and had broken up with her and moved back home, unaware that they were both being investigated for murder in around 1990.
So now, after she agreed to help the police, they set her up in a motel and recorded the calls. How did we get the confession?
Well, Eileen had been pretty keen on protecting Tyria, actually, even though they were broken up. In a call, Eileen said...
So sweet.
I know, they're so cute. In a call, Eileen had said, "I'm not gonna let you go to jail, Ty. I love you. If I had to confess everything just to keep you from getting in trouble, I will."
It's interesting to see that side of her. That's
Yeah.
very sweet and loving for this one person, even though they were broken up.
Yeah, another one of her close friends had said that she had a heart of gold despite everything, which
Yeah.
up to debate, but...
So she went on her word, and at first she claimed the men she killed had tried to rape her, and she shot them in self-defense. But later she took back those claims.
And in the middle of all of this, after her story and mugshot had been published in the newspaper, Eileen was legally adopted by 44-year-old Arlene Prale, who had no previous relations to her. Arlene said that she saw Eileen Wuornos' picture in the newspaper and that God wanted her to do something about it. They had no previous contact. Arlene was a born-again Christian, and she kept in very close contact with Eileen Wuornos up until her death.
So, in January of 1992, Eileen went to trial for the murder of Mallory and was convicted. Psychiatrists testified that she was mentally unstable and diagnosed her with BPD and ASPD. Just 4 days later, she was sentenced to death.
Yeah, over the next year, she pleaded no contest to the murders of Humphreys, Barres, and Spears, saying that she wanted to get right with God. She received 3 more death sentences. She pleaded guilty to the rest of the murders and received a total of 6 death sentences.
6. What about Peter Seams, the victim whose abandoned car got her caught in the first place?
Well, no charges were technically brought up against her for the murder of Seams. I guess it was because his body was never found. I think that they just kind of assumed it.
Poor guy.
Her trials were pretty straightforward. For the witness testimony, Tyria Moore testified pretty calmly against her. Must have been rough to see her girlfriend turn against her, but she also probably knew that it was for the better of Tyria. Tyria made it out of the case without any sort of charges brought against her, and it seemed like she was pretty uninvolved in the
Yeah,
murders.
she was pretty innocent and all. She's a big outlier in a lot of criminology aspects, and her psychological profile has actually been studied a lot. So, psychological profiling in general is analyzing victimology, patterns, childhood disorders like lack of empathy, BPD, schizophrenia, aggression, impulsivity, blah, 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 to help protect behavior and understand tactics. So, such severe trauma can also disrupt the whole structure of the brain in various developmental points. Nick Broomfield, who made a documentary on her, said, "I think this anger developed inside her. And she was working as a prostitute. I think she had a lot of awful encounters on the roads. And I think this anger just spilled out from inside her and finally exploded into incredible violence. That was her way of surviving."
Yeah, I mean, it seems that that's all she ever knew from, like, a young age. And how did all of, like, her personality issues affect her crimes?
So one of the really interesting things about this is that a lot of times the psychological profile and how they commit their crime, women are very discreet. They don't make messes. They keep it over a certain period of time. They try not to give themselves as much evidence. But Eileen, she shot them all. She left horrible crime scenes. She was so violent when she killed, and it was interesting how women are usually less messy. Except for her.
All that cleaning that we had to do as kids really paid off, I guess, for a lot of females.
I guess so.
Not
you know.
for her, but after she was sentenced to death several times, she was on death row for a decade, and she presented to the media and the press pretty harshly. Like, she kept claiming that wardens and other inmates were trying to poison her food, and she would go on interviews saying that I'd killed them all, I robbed them cold, and I would do it again. But in one interview, when she thought the cameras were off, she stated, I'm paraphrasing, she was like, "I'm doing this so that they try to kill me faster," because she was miserable on death row. She really just wanted to get it over with.
She was in a mental state of understanding it.
Yeah, she wasn't like a lot of male serial killers who kind of don't experience the same emotion. She felt a lot. She felt a lot of things. And she was very outspoken about them.
Even at first, when the psychologist said that she was unstable mentally, she actually was very aware of what she was doing.
And she was given lethal injection on October 9th, 2002. And
she was the second woman in Florida and the 10th in the U.S. to be executed. I mean, so this case didn't really have a huge impact on society and the system. I do think that was because it was probably shoved under the rug, especially in its time, for her being a lesbian and her killing men.
Yeah, probably also because she went, like, fully against every sort of classic serial
yeah.
killer stereotype.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the most famous serial killers of all time, especially targeted prostitutes. And, I don't know, seeing that a prostitute could target the men back probably seemed pretty crazy to anyone who saw the case.
Yeah.
But years after, she's still pretty famous as a serial killer, at least as a female serial killer.
Yeah.
Ted Bundy does run laps around her on Wikipedia page views, but that's neither here nor there. And that's Eileen Warnos. Thank you to Me Having Finals again for bringing another video to everyone. May God rest our souls. Everybody go get an A.
Bye!
But baby, one of these days I'm gonna cry and cut you up with a rusty saw on my daddy's shed and bury the pieces about.